can't see a thing, Jim. Well, hold on. I swear, it's always some damn thing. Wait, got it. Ah, hell, this thing ain't gonna hold. Shut up. Damn, you're ugly. You girl strapped in nice and tight now. Tighter than your mama leg. That's a good one, man.
Hey there everyone, it's your favorite pixelated professor here with another episode of the 8-Bit Academic. I do apologize if I'm sounding a little under the weather today. After quite an extended period of feeling pretty good about myself, finally gaining confidence and deciding to be content for a change, I fell once again into a state of depression, which I think stems mostly from way too much overthinking about a wee bit of heartbreak, which is taking me some time to get over, past regrets, as well as anxiety about the future and whether I'll find stability or some form of fulfillment before I turn 40. Only 5 years left, no pressure whatsoever, right?
Hello darkness, my old friend.
Maybe deciding to study animation in a country where people are too backwards minded to fully understand the scope and potential of that medium was a mistake after all. But no use crying over spilled milk. We must forge ahead, for it's the only thing that gives us purpose and meaning in life. Hence this YouTube channel, which at this point has become sort of therapeutic in a way, by allowing me to express my passion for a multitude of interests, or maybe distractions, which seem like they're growing with each passing week as I find more things to be fascinated, entertained, and intrigued by, or maybe obsessed with.
I'm Michael Jordan. Stop it. Get some help.
Today we will be exploring a classic sci-fi gem from the late 1990s called Starcraft, which was developed by the used to be cool but suck absolute balls now Blizzard Entertainment, who you may also know from other used to be great until they fucked them up completely titles like Diablo, Warcraft and World of Warcraft, as well as that one IP they completely abandoned called Lost Vikings, which I have covered on this channel before. But this is why nostalgia, at least in terms of gaming, is pretty awesome, because at least one can go back and replay classics like the feature of today's video, or even play the modernized remastered versions that run a lot smoother on modern PCs and have enhanced graphics, which is what I did for this video. Yes, you heard that right, Starcraft did indeed receive a full remaster back in 2017, even though I only found out about this literally 2 years ago because I live under a friggin' rock. I have been playing it ever since, and man does it still hold up to this day.
Nuclear launch detected.
The series, set in the beginning of the 26th century, centers on a galactic struggle for dominance among 4 species: the adaptable and mobile Terrans, which are basically just humans, the ever-evolving insectoid Zerg, the powerful and enigmatic Protoss, and the godlike Shell Naga creator race in a distant part of the Milky Way galaxy known as the Kopulu sector, and apparently gets a lot of its inspiration from Warhammer 40k as well as Dune and Star Wars. There was a rumor that Starcraft was allegedly meant to be a Warhammer 40k game, but it turns out that this was actually the very first Warcraft game, which was meant to be a video game adaptation of Warhammer Fantasy. However, due to licensing issues, they decided to make it into its own franchise, which eventually led to the creation of both Starcraft and Diablo. But looking at the various playable factions in Starcraft, it is pretty clear that they did indeed copy a lot from 40k as well. I mean, Terrans may not have a God Emperor, but their Space Marine armor looks very similar to the Astartes Marines in 40k, and the Zerg are basically just Tyranids, with Protoss kinda feeling very Tau-ish.
Same, but different. But still same.
Either way, Starcraft and its 2010 sequel, Starcraft 2, are some of the most fun to play real-time strategy games ever made, and are for some reason extremely popular in South Korea.
Your forces are under attack.
SCV good to go, sir.
So, since today's feature is pretty sci-fi and revolve around at least 4 distinct alien civilizations, I figured let's do a deep dive into just that, alien civilizations, or rather, how to tell just how advanced an alien civilization could be if we ever encountered one. Even though mainstream science is a bit skeptical when it comes to extraterrestrial life outside of our solar system, this has not stopped some of the greatest minds in history from speculating and theorizing about what exactly we would be up against if we did by some chance come across an alien civilization, or maybe even what our potential future could look like in terms of technological advancement if we don't end up destroying ourselves in the process first. Well, in 1964, this led a certain Russian astrophysicist by the name of Nikolai Kardashev to come up with a sort of measuring tool to determine an extraterrestrial civilization's level of advancement, or even our own, which we know today as the Kardashev Scale, and was later modified by the famous American astronomer and cosmologist Carl Sagan in 1974. But first, who exactly was Nikolai Kardashev, and why did he decide to make a scale to measure the levels of advancement in hypothetical alien civilizations or our own? Born in the year 1932 in the then Soviet Union, Nikolai was the son of Russian revolutionaries Semyon Karlovich Brike and Nina Nikolaevna Kardasheva, who were both members of the hardline communist Bolshevik Party. But as with any revolution, once the old system is destroyed and a new one is put in its place, the useful pawns who served as the cannon fodder of the revolution become expendable and thus end up being erased. And so it would be that under the 20th century's other brutal dictator that nobody pays much attention to because he didn't have a tiny mustache, Joseph Stalin, both of Nikolai's parents would end up being purged in 1937, with his father being executed and his mother being sent to a labor camp, from which she would only be released in 1956, 3 years after Stalin's death, and after Nikolai had already graduated from university. Yeah, maybe supporting the Bolsheviks wasn't such a great idea after all.
And I want to make a video about why, to this day, after the time in history when it was founded, we still need communism.
Shut your fucking mouth! No problem, John. Shut the fuck up, you cunt!
He would end up having a long and prosperous career in the field of Soviet astrophysics, and even started his own satellite development program called Radio Astron, which after 30 long years would finally launch its first satellite in 2011 called Spectre R. It was in 1963 that Nikolai would present a paper at a scientific conference in the then Soviet-controlled country of Armenia, which he titled The Transmission of Information by Extraterrestrial Civilizations, with this scientific paper proposing a sort of measurement system that would later become known as the Kardashev Scale, which is in essence the idea of measuring a civilization's technological advancement based on the amount of energy it is able to use, with a civilization that can use all the energy of a planet defined as Type 1, and the other Types 2 and 3 being defined as civilizations that can use all the energy of a star and a galaxy and so on. So initially, Kardashev's scale only went up to Type 3, a civilization that can utilize the energy of its nearby star as well as going on to expand to the rest of its own galaxy and harnessing the power of multiple stars from multiple solar systems. However, as mentioned before, Carl Sagan would later on modify and add decimals to the numbers that could give a more accurate measure in where exactly a civilization would fall on the scale, especially those that may be transitioning between two types, such as our own, which currently sits at roughly about 0.72 on the Kardashev scale. Since we are able to use majority of our resources on our planet to produce enough energy to somewhat sustain ourselves, but not enough to get us to the stars and establish permanent settlements on other planets within our own solar system. It would only be later on through multiple publications by Nikolai Kardashev and contributions by other scientists like Michio Kaku, Carl Sagan, Robert Zubrin, John D. Barrow, and Zoltan Galantai that further additions, revisions, and developments would be added to the original Kardashev scale, with the types of advancements going all the way up to 7, with hypothetical civilizations achieving such high levels of progression that they may be able to manipulate space-time and reality itself. So now that we know who the initial founder of the Kardashev scale is, let's actually take a look at the scale itself and what each civilization type actually represents in terms of capabilities, resource management, energy production and use, and overall advancement. According to Nikolai Kardashev, a Type 1 civilization would be one that is able to harness all the energy available on its own planet at once, and also has advanced beyond the use of fossil fuels. This includes the use of hydro, wind, nuclear, and also geothermal energy, as in the heat energy found within the planet itself that emanates from its core. Such a civilization may even be able to harness energy from volcanic eruptions and earthquakes, as well as somewhat being able to tap into the most powerful energy source within its own solar system, that of its parent star. In our case, it would mean being able to somehow make use of the energy given off by the sun by solar-powered means, but not just with terrestrial solar panels alone, but maybe even including constructs in space that could trap the energy given off by the sun and distribute it back to Earth for consumption. The reason we still exist only at 0.72 on the Kardashev scale is because we still rely quite heavily on fossil fuels, and while solar, geothermal, wind, nuclear, and hydropower do exist, at least on a relatively small scale, we have yet to find better ways to make use of geothermal energy from within the Earth, as well as finding ways to harness the sun's energy in more cost-effective and efficient ways that could result in us abandoning fossil fuels and maybe even nuclear energy entirely. A Type 2 civilization is one that is able to solely rely on and harness the total energy output of its parent star. Such a civilization would have been able to build massive constructs in space, such as a Dyson sphere or a Matryoshka brain around said star, allowing it to make absolute use of the massive amounts of energy it produces to power everything within its sphere of influence, from regular home appliances to even enormous amounts of computational power. Such a civilization may have already begun to spread out from the confines of its home planet and begun colonizing other orbital bodies within its own solar system, like nearby planets and even asteroids. A Type 3 civilization is one that has reached the point of being able to harness the total energy output of its entire galaxy, having spread out to multiple solar systems and built Dyson spheres around multiple stars and colonized planets across the span of its own galaxy. That is to say that if we as a species were ever to reach Type 3 on the Kardashev scale, we would basically have settled on an innumerable amount of planets within star systems across the entire Milky Way galaxy, and have already had the technology to harness the energy from multiple stars within the Milky Way as well. Now, Nikolai Kardashev never really went beyond Type 3 in his original scale, but there have been other scientists in the fields of astronomy and astrophysics that have contributed to his theory over the years. In 1973, as mentioned before, astronomer Carl Sagan believed that the Kardashev scale was too spread out, and that the gaps between the three levels were so large that a finer gradation was needed. He thus proposed decimal additions to the scale, defining a type 1.1 civilization with access to 10 to the power of 17 watts of energy, a type 2.4 with access to 10 to the power of 30 watts of energy, and so on. He defined human civilization as a type 0.7 using the scale. Sagan also attempted to redefine the scale based on a civilization's level of information mastery, with more advanced civilizations having access to more information. Sagan's modified scale used the alphabet for classification, with a type A civilization having access to 10 to the power of 6 total bits of information. The scale increases by one letter with every increase by a factor of 10 in the amount of information they have access to. Sagan estimated Earth in 1973 as having about 10 to the power of 13 bits of information, which he combined with the Kardashev scale to designate Earth as 0.7H. He guessed that first contact would be with a 1.5J or 1.8K civilization, and that a galactic civilization of 1 million worlds, each with 1,000 times the information of Earth, would be a Q civilization. However, in 2024, the estimated amount of data on Earth was 149 zettabytes, a zettabyte being a unit of digital information storage equal to 1 sextillion bytes. It is the equivalent to 1,000 exabytes, 1 million terabytes, or 1 billion gigabytes, thus making Earth an S civilization on Carl Sagan's modified version of the Kardashev scale, which, as mentioned before, also uses the alphabet to indicate the amount of information a civilization has access to and is able to utilize. Further studies established Earth at a level of 0.676 on the Kardashev scale in 1965, rising to 0.728 in 2020. Assuming a linear increase in global energy consumption and information acquisition of 2.3% per year, Earth could become a Type 1 civilization in the year 2347. In 2011, the Japanese-American theoretical physicist Michio Kaku also added his own flavor to the Kardashev scale in his book Physics of the Future, wherein he examined what were the necessary developments needed for humanity to reach Type 1. By studying the evolution of technologies that have changed history such as paper, the integrated circuit, the personal computer, etc., Kaku believes that humanity is moving toward a civilization of planetary dimensions, the starting point of which was the invention of the internet. A Type 1 civilization, as mentioned earlier, consumes power on the order of thousands to millions of times our current planetary output, about 100 trillion watts. It would have enough energy to even manipulate the occurrence of certain natural phenomena, such as earthquakes or volcanoes, and could build cities on the oceans as well as develop interstellar travel. According to him, we can already see the development of a Type 1 civilization here on Earth through the fact that a global language is developing, in this case English. There is already a global communication system such as the internet, attempts at a global economic system such as cryptocurrency, NFTs, EFTs, attempts at reintroducing the gold standard, and joint economic partnerships like that of BRICS and the EU, and even a global culture primarily influenced by Western media. However, he does also go on to state that if developments in these areas stagnates or fails to fully take root, then it could prevent us from ever reaching Type 1 or beyond, and as a result, as he puts it, falling into the abyss over our differences and competing agendas. Michio Kaku as well as American aerospace engineer Robert Zubrin have pondered the possibility of a Type 4 civilization as well, where a Type 1 masters its own planet, Type 2 its solar system, and Type 3 the vastness of its own galaxy. A Type 4 civilization would not only have achieved all of these, but also have the technology to harness the energy of the entire universe, having spread out far beyond the confines of its own galaxy and populated other galaxies, even going so far as to be able to make use of extragalactic energy such as dark energy and be able to manipulate dark matter as well, giving them power over space-time and maybe even reality itself. This means that such an advanced civilization would have the ability to affect the expansion of the universe and be able to bend the entire universe to its will, creating and destroying entire galaxies and perhaps even finding ways to control black holes, and have developed methods of space travel that surpasses even that of faster than light technology, such as using said black holes as gateways to other dimensions or to jump from one end of the cosmos to another in an instant. However, their consciousness may have to end up being collective, existing across the cosmos as a unified, super intelligent entity that transcends individual bodies and local time. So in order to achieve such a high level of advancement, such a civilization would have to sacrifice individuality on a massive scale. Now, as you can see, Type 4 seems to be where the Kardashev Scale starts to head into more science fiction territory rather than an actual plausible reality. However, beyond Type 4 is where things begin to get way out there and essentially sees a civilization ascending into what could best be described as godhood. So just for shits and giggles, let's take a look at what Types 5, 6 and 7 civilizations could look like. Now, in quantum physics there exists the idea of a multiverse, as well as lesser and higher dimensional spaces, with us currently living in our universe, which seems to for the most part exist in the third dimension, since we are able to detect at least 3 dimensions of any object or organism placed in front of us with our 5 senses. The problem is that while on paper, using complex mathematical equations, we are able to prove the existence of a potential multiverse and multidimensional spaces outside our own, we do lack both the senses and technology to be able to physically prove whether these things indeed exist outside of our own reality. With that being said though, it is quite interesting to speculate, using what has already been established with the Kardashev scale from Type 1 through to Type 3 and the additional Type 4 included later on, of what a civilization would look like if it were able to surpass even these first couple of levels on the scale. So assuming that the multiverse is indeed real and higher dimensional spaces, a Type 5 civilization would essentially have discovered and gone beyond the confines of our own universe and have the ability to harness the total energy of multiple universes as well, as having the capability to access an infinite number of said energy sources, as in they would never run dry. One has to assume that by this point they have unlocked all the mysteries of reality itself, gained immortality in some way, probably further integrated their minds together even beyond that of Type 4, and maybe even have integrated into the multiverse itself both mentally and physically. They would be able to simulate or create custom universes and bend the very laws of physics to their will with a single thought, and perhaps even be able to pass into multiple dimensions. A Type 6 civilization exists in the Megaverse and is capable of creating and maintaining the fundamental laws of multiple universes, the Megaverse being a collection of many multiverses and the infinite amount of links and dimensions that exist between them. This kind of godly civilization would understand all the laws of physics, even ones that still in our current state remain unknown or unproven. They would be able to even create their own laws of physics on a whim and have gained complete mastery over space-time, allowing them to exist across multiple instances or timelines, being able to see infinite numbers of different outcomes and pasts or futures. These godly beings would even be able to exist in high dimensional spaces of reality, being able to travel to and from them with ease, as well as having the ability to travel from one to the next, jumping from our third dimensional reality all the way up to the 7th or 8th if they wanted to. And lastly, we come to the most outlandish of the lot, that being a Type 7 civilization, which at this point we would have transcended even godhood itself. A Type 7 civilization would be able to travel, transcend and potentially encompass the Omniverse, which is the collection of every single universe, multiverse, megaverse, paraverse, and the 11th dimension. It is likely that such power would come from an individual rather than a civilization, as the civilization would have transcended and merged into a single mind that would encompass all thoughts and timelines, thus being omnipotent, omnipresent, and omniscient within the confines of the 11 dimensions of the omniverse. Such a being or civilization would essentially be a god among gods, as it will have the ability to manipulate reality itself and create infinite possibilities, timelines, universes, multiverses, and more. But for those of us who are more religiously inclined, there does exist a civilization or being that transcends even type 7, and that would be what many religions around the world refer to as the Creator. While types 5, 6, and 7 are able to manipulate reality to their will to varying degrees, it is only the hypothetical Creator civilization or being that is able to exist outside of reality and create something from nothing. A Creator civilization or being can produce infinite subsets of existence itself from absolute nothingness. The exact nature of the Creator is unknown and unknowable. Its nature can also be described as ineffable, meaning that it is incomprehensible and surpasses the capacity of language to express it. In terms of the Kardashev scale, such a civilization would exist as type 20, which represents the zenith of existence within the cosmos. As the highest level supreme being, the Creator stands as the ultimate expression of cosmic consciousness, intelligence, and creative power. This civilization or being has transcended the confines of the known and the unknown, and their existence serves as the culmination of all that the cosmos has to offer. The Creator, by its very designation, signifies its role as the supreme architect of reality. It possesses the ability to shape and mold the fabric of existence in ways that are beyond the grasp of lesser civilizations. In the Creator's hands, the very rules and structures of the cosmos become pliable and adaptable, allowing for the realization of profound creative visions. But as stated previously, after type 4, the rest of these extremely out there types on the Kardashev scale begin to reach such high levels of advancement that both seem impossible and far beyond the scope of our current understanding and knowledge. But it does get me thinking, what if what many of us think of as God, or the various deities that have existed across world religions throughout human history, are simply cosmic civilizations that came before us that may have advanced past type 4, even going so far as becoming type 7, thus effectively making them some kind of god? What if type 20, the Creator, the supreme being that exists outside of reality itself, was probably the first civilization to ever exist, and simply through technological advancements of some kind was able to evolve and transcend past the confines of reality itself, going on to create its own reality, which is the omniverse that encompasses every megaverse, multiverse, universe, dimensional reality, past, present, future, timelines, and every single fabric of existence ever. Yeah, my head hurts right now trying to comprehend all of this. And while there may be many a skeptic out there who will cry, "It's not real because my evidence," as always, it is fun to speculate and imagine such vast and incomprehensible possibilities of what we refer to as the cosmos and reality. And if you're so quick to just debunk or dismiss such speculations, then to me, you're an extremely boring individual. There is nothing wrong with believing in or imagining the impossible, even if it is quite far-fetched and probably unrealistic, at least according to us. Imagining the impossible is what got us this far in the first place. So maybe in order to advance further and at least get to type 3 on the Kardashev scale, we should stop being so dogmatic in our scientific approach and start being more open-minded to the impossible once again. Anyway, I hope you all enjoyed this week's episode. Please do consider maybe liking this video if you enjoyed it, leaving a comment and subscribing if this is the type of content you're into, and I will see you all again next week, same time and same place. Peace be upon you all.
Please give me cock. Cock. It's cock. It's in English. I still remember the first time I went to America. I was at the airplane. I asked flight attendants that, can I get a cola? And she asked me, excuse me? I keep saying, cola, cola, cola. But it was not cola, it was Coke. It was Coke. It's Coke actually, right? So maybe a few Korean people could understand if you just say Coke.